All right, today we're diving headfirst into the absolutely relentless mindset of David Goggins. You know, his philosophy, it's brutal, but it's also incredibly simple. He believes that true unbreakable strength, it's not built with a team cheering you on. Nope. It's forged in the fire when you're completely and utterly alone. Okay, let's really lock in on this quote right here, because this single statement, man, it's the foundation for everything we're about to talk about. For Goggins, this whole thing is like a zero-sum game. You know, when the rest of the world decides to hit that snooze button, that's not just some random observation to him. Oh no, that's the actual fuel he uses to build his own power.
And speaking of that journey, it definitely doesn't start at a reasonable hour. We're talking about the pre-dawn silence. For him, 3 a.m. isn't a time for rest. It's a strategic battlefield. It's the moment where you can gain a serious mental edge while pretty much everyone else is still asleep.
But here's the thing, and this is super important. Don't get it twisted. It's not really about the running, the swimming, or the push-ups, the miles you log, the weights you lift. Look, those are just the tools, the real work, the important stuff. That's all happening on the inside. It's about using that grueling action to build a fortress in your mind, one that's impenetrable to weakness and doubt.
And really, every single day, it boils down to this one fundamental choice. On one side, you've got the couch, right? It's comfort, it's warmth, and it's the gradual wearing away of your will. But on the other side, you've got the pavement. That's the decision to, as he would say, get after it, to actively build yourself into something more.
And this right here, this is the absolute core of his motivation. He looks out at the world and sees most people choosing the couch, just refusing to endure any kind of hardship. But here's the kicker. For Goggins, that's not a societal problem. Nope. It's a massive personal advantage just sitting there, waiting for someone like him to seize it.
So, how do you seize that advantage? Well, it requires something that goes against pretty much every human instinct we have. A conscious, and let's be honest, often painful, rejection of the pack.
And you know, Goggins is brutally honest about his own past. He freely admits that for like 2/3 of his life, all he wanted was to be accepted. He talks about lying and pretending just to fit in, a behavior he now just calls weak-ass shit. And this really lays out the two paths in stark contrast, doesn't it? The old way is all about conforming to the outside world, you know, needing that buddy system. But the new path, it's a complete 180. It's all about turning inward and embracing that solitary struggle as the only way to find out who you really are. And this is where he just completely reframes the entire experience. Think about that. What used to be a source of pain for him, being alone, is transformed into the absolute best environment for growth. It stops being something you run away from and actually becomes the only place you want to be. Okay, so that place, that spot where you learn to thrive all by yourself, that's where the real work happens. He has a name for it, the unseen work. It's all that brutal effort you put in when there's nobody watching, nobody clapping, and nobody cheering you on.
See, most people are out there chasing a high from likes and praise on social media. But Goggins argues that the only truly sustainable motivation, what he calls good dopamine, comes from building an internal resume. It's like this private record of all the grueling, miserable work you did when absolutely no one was looking.
And hey, if you think that's just some kind of exaggeration, he actually puts a number on it, 99%. He claims that 99% of his entire life's training was done completely alone. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That's an almost total, unwavering commitment to absolute self-reliance. And there's a reason for this. It's because true, unbreakable mental fortitude, it can only be forged when you strip away every single possible safety net. When you know deep down in your bones that no one is coming to help you, well, you're forced to become the one who helps yourself. You have no other choice. So naturally, in this world we live in that's completely obsessed with shortcuts and life hacks, people are constantly asking him for the secret, right? They all want to know, what's the easy way? How do I get what you have, but faster? And his answer is always blunt, always uncompromising. There is no hack. Period. That difficult, miserable, and lonely work, that isn't some obstacle you have to get over to find the path. That is the path.
So what happens when you actually commit to that kind of solitary path? Well, something really powerful starts to shift. Your focus is forced to turn away from the outside world and back onto the only person who actually matters in this equation, you.
Because according to Goggins, there's a primary source of weakness in the modern world. It's that corrosive habit of constantly looking left and right. He believes that the second you start comparing yourself to other people, it corrupts your own internal dialogue and yanks you completely off your own mission. And for him, The moment he realized that the only benchmark that ever matters is who he was yesterday, well, that changed everything. See, once you make the race against yourself and yourself alone, all that other external noise, it fades away.
So the process actually becomes pretty clear, right? It all starts with step 1. You have to silence the outside world. Once you do that, it allows you to stop judging yourself against everyone else. And from there, you can finally realize that it's your race and you get to run it on your timeline. It's a journey that takes you from just reacting to your environment to fundamentally owning who you are.
Okay, so let's talk about the payoff. After all of this suffering, all of this solitary, unseen work, what's the ultimate outcome? I mean, what's the prize at the end of all this?
Well, there it is. The reward isn't something you can hang on a wall. It's not a medal, it's not a certificate. The real trophy is something forged inside your own mind, an unshakable, indestructible memory of everything you overcame, built by you and for you alone. And this entire process, it all leads to something he calls personal sovereignty. And what is that? It's that incredibly rare state where your identity has been so solidified by struggle that you no longer bend or break based on what other people expect from you. You just are.
And that becomes your power. That memory you have of pushing through the absolute worst moments, completely alone, becomes your ultimate source of fuel. So when future challenges pop up, and they always do, you can draw on that tangible proof, the truth that you built yourself in the dark when no one else was around. Look, his path is obviously extreme, but the core principle, that connects to all of us. He found his most powerful, most authentic self in the darkest and most solitary of places. So the final question this leaves us with is, where will you find yours?